Hi, everyone. I'm Kurt Roney, the instructor for this course on international business. And I want to begin this little video with an apology to you because I've just finished setting up the course here on Sunday night, just before the course begins. And there have been some changes in the format of the course and the contents since the original material was posted on Moodle. So some of you have already looked at that material and you're going to be angry at me, I'm afraid, because here I am about to change it. There's no good excuse except for the fact that I have been blisteringly busy during the spring semester. You may or may not know that the university had a little bit of difficulty with the coronavirus. One of the difficulties was that many of our international students could not return in this past semester because of the limitations on the immigration. And consequently, this put a little bit of a crimp in the budget. So those of us who are full faculty were asked to take on an additional course rather than 4. We now have to teach 5. My courses, by the way, tend to be pretty meaty. They have a lot in them. And the reason that's relevant is because in addition to the 5th course, 2 courses that were added in the fall, I'm sorry, in the spring, in this recent semester, that were added for me, each had over 30 students. One had 31 and the other 33. So that's 64. And then the other class that I had regularly had, I think, over 25. But if it were 25, I guess that would be 89. And then I had another class with 11. So that made 100 students, all of which were submitting papers every week and tests and quizzes and so forth. So here I was frantically dealing with 100 papers a week and 100 quizzes and tests and what have you. And all I can tell you is that I'm an old man, and by the time the semester was over, I was a very tired old man, and I still am a little bit. So while that was going on, even though in the last week, the Moodle shell for this course had been posted on Moodle. I'm sorry, what am I trying to say? Yeah, I guess the Moodle shell had been posted on the internet. And so you saw what had been carried over from prior semesters. And when I initially looked them over very briefly, it looked like they were pretty close to what we would be doing. But lately, this weekend, as I've gotten a chance to get into things in more detail, I have found that many changes were needed. And therefore, I fear that those of you who have taken trouble to look at the video regarding the course overview, you're going to want to, I would love to meet you in person because I much prefer to teach classes in person, but I think if we were to meet in person right now, some of you would want to whack me. So maybe it's just as well that we don't meet for a while. Anyway, what I would like to do in this video is reintroduce you to the course, and I'll do it as fast as I can, but there's a fair amount to go over. The first thing I want to do is just pick up that course introduction. You've seen the PowerPoints and the video already. This is the new video for that. And I'm now going to show you the new PowerPoints, and we can talk about the course in summary fashion. So let me see if I can get that thing up here. It's always a bit of a chore, but there, I think I see it. And there it is. Okay. So these first couple of slides certainly look a lot like what you saw before, with the addition of what's in this box over here on the right. And let's see, I think that Lenovo has been taken off. So that's one change I didn't make yet. But you can see up here, there are going to be some discussion topics at the very end of the course. And we're going to talk about the impacts of COVID on international trade, because that's, of course, what this course is partly or largely about. So we'll get into the detail of that, and then I will ask you to write a little paper to summarize, I believe, 3 questions about that topic. There's another topic you can see listed there called PISA, P-I-S-A. It's the Program for International Student Assessment. It's conducted by the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which is an organization of 37 countries, of which the United States is one, and it's very highly regarded. And its purpose is to explore issues, among other things, in international trade. But it's got the same reputation or better than the United Nations. And every 3 years, OECD summer surveys countries all over the world. The last one had more than 75 countries to take a look at their educational systems. And I'd like to discuss with you the impacts and the results of that survey, because it turns out that since it's so multinational in nature, it also has quite an implication for international business. So those are a couple additions to this slide that were not here when you first looked at it. Pardon me, I need to keep my throat moist because I've been doing a lot of videos lately. Okay, so, but the rest of this slide talks about the various chapters in the textbook that you should have by now. If you don't have the textbook by now, you have a problem, because as you can see, there are 17 chapters in this baby, and they're excellent. Aside from being excellent chapters, you will find some really good artwork in them, excellent maps discussing or showing the location of countries that are under discussion in the textbook. The textbook just has some excellent graphics and excellent maps, and that's not the only reason I chose it, but it's one of them. Another thing that will maybe relieve you a little is in between each one of these chapters is quite a lot of additional material, including a 1.5 or 2 page mini case, which I described earlier. They're discussions of these companies and others that come at the end of the chapter and demonstrate the principles under discussion in the chapter. But in addition to that, there are reams of references and various other things. So although there are 17 chapters, the chapters are not unreasonable in length. So that's kind of a relief for you. This, by the way, is the textbook. Definitely get it. And you can get it, the version I have is in 3 holes, and I put it in a 3-ring binder. but you can get it as a bound hard copy or in that 3-ring binder. I recommend a 3-ring binder just because it's so big. If you want, you can take the pages out for the chapter you're reading. Anyway, here are the various elements of the course, and here we see a little change from what you saw earlier. First of all, for every one of those 17 chapters and a couple other topics, there's a quiz. The quizzes are not meant to be mind-boggling or, to be terribly difficult, but they cover all the key topics. And when you get ready for those 3 tests, your smart move is to go back over those quizzes that will then be open. Now, this brings me to an important point, and I hope everybody in the class is going to listen to this video. And if you are listening to it, get a pencil and write something down now. Every 2 weeks, there will be one of those tests. The course lasts for 7 weeks. And so I've divided the material every 2 weeks. There's a lot of material in each 2 weeks, but I've divided it equally into 3 parts so that it's not overwhelming for you to study for each test. But the way to study for the test, as I mentioned, is to go over the closed quizzes on which the test is based, and that's posted in the slides as we will see. So how do we do that? If I were to leave the quizzes open all the way through the end of the week, then they would never close so that you could look at the results before you take the test. You want to look at the quiz results and especially the questions you got wrong before the test, because the tests are pretty much based on what's in those quizzes. So on the weeks when there is no test, then the quizzes will go all the way through the end of the week. They'll be open through the end of the week and they'll close at the end of the week. But during weeks when there's going to be a test, the tests will be open on the weekends. So for you to have a chance to look at the answers to the quizzes, I have to close them early, and I'm going to close them on Friday, not Sunday. So if there's no test, quizzes close Sunday. If there is a test, the quizzes close Friday. And I've set the Moodle, I guess, to open the quizzes at midweek, so that those of you who finish early will be able to review the answers to the quiz and study for the test. Those who haven't taken the test until Friday, they have a different kind of a problem, not least of which is they need to try to do their work a little sooner. But that's an important point for you to know, that after Friday on test week, the quizzes will close. And by the way, on the 7th week, there's also a test. It's called the final exam. Okay, so that takes us past the 3 tests on this slide. As I mentioned, there are, it says 5, I think it's 4 mini case papers. We'll see them listed in just a moment. And then the discussion papers that I mentioned a bit earlier, and the final exam. So with that information, how will your grade be calculated? And here it is. And again, there's been a little change because the discussion papers were not here the last time you saw these slides. So the quizzes will be worth 20%. I don't think that changed. The mini cases will be worth 20. That would be 5% per case. The tests 10% per test, 30% in total. The discussion papers, one of them is worth a little bit more than the other. So one of them's worth 10% and the other is worth 5%. So together 15%. And then the final exam also 15%. So this is a little different from what you saw earlier, and I apologize very sincerely for the late change, although it won't affect the work that you do, but if you had been putting away where you wanted to place the most emphasis, you may want to rethink that now. Okay, so here they are, and yes, there are only 4. The mini cases are at the back of the textbook, and there are several, 8 or 10 of them, but I've chosen these 4. They're really good cases. They're not long, like I say. They're only, I think a page and a half in 1 or 2 cases and 2 pages at the max. So it won't take you that long to read these things, but the key is to go back to the chapter that these cases follow and try to apply the principles in that chapter to answer the questions that you're asked about these cases. I think usually there's just one question. There are several questions at the end of each case, and I just ask you to, for instance, answer question number 5. But there may be a case where there are 2 questions. In other courses, in the traditional course that goes 17 weeks, there usually are 2 questions, but there's so much going on in the weeks that you're taking this course that I've reduced the size of some assignments to give you a little break. And then the 2 discussion topics. One will be on the impacts of COVID on international trade. That's the big one, by the way. There are 3 questions. The other is on the impacts of U.S. education on America's competitive advantage in world competition. And that's a pretty free-forming kind of a question that we'll talk about in week 7, and then you can sort of just put your creative mind to work and write a little essay about what you think the answers to the questions in that assignment are. Okay, so the Moodle shell that we're about to look at has the syllabus, and the syllabus is the standard syllabus, and it's no longer applicable. If I get a chance, I'll change it, but you should just know that that standard syllabus is not applicable to this course. It's been changed, and or the course has been changed, as you're finding out right now. There's a little summary of my background, the daily and weekly schedule. I imagine that's changed a bit. There is no term project anymore. I took that out. We don't have time to do a term project in this course. There's a little a video and PowerPoint file about analytic models, the various tools that are used to analyze international business problems. And I believe there's a video that goes through those for you. If we have an opportunity, and that may or may not occur, I'll try to get on with you and discuss these analytic models. They're really useful if you study them and get to know them. You can use them in your working life, definitely. And then links to the chapter review videos, chapter PowerPoints, various supplemental instructions, the tests, and the portals to upload those papers. So that's it in a nutshell. And this last slide looks like it still needs some some modification. So that's the course in a nutshell. Now, what I'd like to do is just run through very basically and briefly, hopefully, the 7 weeks of this course in the Moodle shell. And I think that that'll make things a lot clearer to you with regard to what will transpire during the course. So let's see if I can locate that thing. Now that's always the challenge, is just where is it? Let me see if I can get it. I think I got it. First shot. Ladies and gentlemen, oh no, I think it's all ladies, isn't it? Ladies, I can tell you that my track record in bringing things up on Zoom the first time is not very good. So this, I'm going to give myself a little drink of coffee and pretend it's champagne. Okay. I don't know about you, but most of the stuff up here at the beginning isn't all that relevant. I will send you announcements from time to time to let you know that grades have been posted or some special thing is going to happen. Incidentally, one of the things that I could do is send you an announcement every week when we're going to meet. There are only 6 of you, 7 of us total in this class. Therefore, the idea of doing term projects or team projects rather goes out the window. They're just, the class isn't big enough. Moreover, we have found out as a university, not just the business school, not just me, that team projects just don't work very well online. I've used them, tried to use them, and now we have just recognized that team projects online aren't the best idea. And that's another reason that I removed it, even though it's probably still in the syllabus. We could meet online as a class once a week, perhaps for an hour, if you wish, if you wish. It's not mandatory. Certainly it's not mandatory for an online course, but you, the 6 of you, may feel like you'd like to meet with me, ask me questions, understand exactly what's involved in the assignments, and so forth, or simply discuss international business. For what it's worth, I've done a lot of international business, I'll probably make comments about that from time to time. If you would like to meet once a week, send me an email, please. And if 4 out of 6 say that they want to meet, then we will have weekly meetings. The next question will be, what is your preferred day? The smart move there is to do it early in the week. Perhaps Tuesday, Monday, you take a look at the material, get a feel for it, maybe try to look at the case or something like that. And then on Tuesday, discuss the things that you're uncertain about. And that gives you the rest of the week to take advantage of what you learned in that little discussion. But perhaps the half of the folks in the class just can't meet on Tuesday. And by the way, these meetings would be after work, right? They would be in the evening. So give it some thought. And if you would like to meet, I'll be glad to, but it's not required. It's an offer. It's not an assignment. I mentioned that I've done business internationally. I don't know if you've looked at my resume or my CV that is posted in the Moodle shell. I used to be vice president of corporate planning and development at Phillips Industries. And I also was the first director of corporate planning at Holiday Inn when it was still a going and growing company. And I also was managing partner of a consulting firm that did strategic planning. Strategic management is my specialty. And I've written a couple of books and a few papers about it. But I managed a firm called Commercial Planning Consultants that did strategic planning or assisted clients all over the world doing strategic planning. And in my international travels, I've traveled all over China, Russia, let me see if I could, Europe, of course, just about everywhere in Russia, Colombia in South America, Mexico. Gosh, I'm sure I'm forgetting some. Croatia. Uh, it happens to be a beautiful place. Croatia does, but nobody thinks of it very often. I don't. And I'm sure I'm leaving a few out. They all sort of run together when you get to be my age. But suffice to say that I do have quite a bit of experience in international affairs and international business. So I can provide you a little bit of insight into what we're going to be talking about that perhaps some other faculty folks are not able to. So with that, now that I've tooted my own horn, we can move on. But that's where I'll be posting announcements. Whoa, it looks like we've got more than one announcements. We'll get rid of this one up here. That's terrible, isn't it? That I have to manicure this thing right in front of you, but there it goes. Okay. So there's my background, and these are the PowerPoint slides that you and I just looked at. Okay, so here we are in the first week, and you see you've got 2 chapters to read. Won't be difficult at all, and a video on drivers of international business, and that's just about the same as attending a traditional class, maybe a little longer, but it's an extremely important video. And by the way, here are the PowerPoints that I use in that video. But these are the drivers. This is what's making things happen in international commerce. So get yourself a cup of coffee or whatever it is that you drink when you look at videos. And if it's beer, I hope you're not sleepy. Anyway, this is a long one, and you might want to break it halfway through, just so you can stay awake. But then you can review the PowerPoints, and there's a little quiz on what's covered here. But again, this is the foundation for what comes later. So it's an extremely important item. And then there's this cute little case at the end of the chapter, of the first chapter, about why Harley-Davidson expanded internationally. And so, as you might imagine, chapter 1 is about reasons why companies expand internationally. And you can see there's just one question to answer. Won't take you very long at all. But don't oversimplify it. Just don't, just recognize that this is college, and I want to see your rationale. I want you to give me an explanation of your answers in all these many case questions, because I want to know that you understand. Okay, here we are in week 2. Now we're doing 3 chapters, 3, 4, and 5. At the end of that, there's a case on Unilever. Again, it will not challenge you that much. You're going to answer question 5, but these quizzes will close on Friday, right? because during the weekend, there will be a test. And you can read the language here to understand how long the test is and you know what's in it. Okay, week 3, we're back to the usual routine, chapters 6, 7, and 8, and a discussion of Tata Motors. A very interesting situation. Now, I don't think this video belongs here. I think it belongs down in week 7. I'll leave it there till we get to week 7. But this is a leftover from the traditional class. You can certainly look at it here. It's very interesting stuff. But I'm almost sure. Let me just take a quick look now. COVID impacts on international business. Let's see. And there it is, the same thing. So I'll remove it from here, just so you don't have to be distracted by it. I should have left it there though, because it's a good idea to be thinking about issues like COVID impacts on international trade. In week 4, you have this video that I'm about those analytic models that I just mentioned to you earlier. And yes, indeed, there is a video. That's good. My concern in putting together this course, whether it's this course or any other course on international business, is to give you tools and concepts that you can use in an international setting, in a job, in a company that either does business in multiple countries, or maybe you'd even get a job in the international department. So lo and behold, last semester in the international business course, there were a number of folks from other countries. Even if the course isn't required for the major, of folks who come to our university from other countries, they tend to sign up for the international business course because they know that when they get home, almost anywhere they work is going to be doing business internationally. But I got an email shortly after actually before the end of the semester from a guy who interviewed in Vancouver, British Columbia, and was hired by a company to work in its international business department. And that nice young man sent me a letter saying, thanking me, telling me that it was because of this course that he got the job. Now, yes, I'm patting myself on the back, but you know, the purpose of a lot of the stuff is to give you the material that you might need to do the same thing. These analytic models are very useful for that purpose. As a matter of fact, they're very useful even if you're not doing business internationally. Okay, so chapters 9, 11, and 12. We skip chapter 10 because it's about HR, and I'm sorry, it's about finance and accounting. And we deal with that in the last week to talk about various skills that are required to implement strategy. Okay, so and here you see we have test number 2. So these chapter quizzes will close on Friday. So here we are in the 5th week, and these chapters are about strategy and the organization required to implement strategy. But chapters 13, 14, and 15, and a mini case on Daimler Chrysler, which is one of the most unsuccessful mergers that ever occurred. And then here we are in week 6, chapter 10. Now we have chapter 10 along with other chapters on technical issues, operations, HR, and so forth. And again, a test on what happened this week and that week. And then the final week, this looks like a lot, doesn't it? But it's not really. This is where I really recommend that we come together and have a class meeting. But again, we don't need to because there are videos on the 2 topics, which are the impacts of the coronavirus on international business. And there are, aside from the slides that I use in that video, there are several exhibits. I think there's an article in here, but these are all about the effects that coronavirus has had on international trade. Now, what may happen between now and then is that some major event happens that forces me to add something new here. We don't know what's going to happen between now and the end of June or middle June. In, for instance, India, which has been clobbered by the coronavirus. India looked like it was getting over the coronavirus, and then whoop, it took off again terribly. The same thing has happened in parts of South America. I'm trying to think. And of course, several nations in Africa. So although you and I think that the COVID threat or the COVID problems are pretty well behind us, in some parts of the world, they're still taking off. That has a big ramification on international business, as well as what the US can do in its trade with international partners. So this is a very important topic. And regrettably, I may be forced to add another topic. I hope I don't, but if it's necessary, I will. But I think you will find these to be very interesting articles. I hope my video will be equally interesting. The next video is about the education issue that I mentioned to you earlier. The OECD surveys some 75 countries around the world every 3 years to see how they are doing educationally with high school juniors that are not far from moving on to college. As a matter of fact, because there's so many countries, it takes about a year to compile all the results. So when the results come in, the students that are surveyed are already on their way to college. But in any event, you will see some exhibits here, not nearly as many as about COVID. And there's a little writing assignment here where I just ask you to tell me what you think about what was in those results and what the ramifications are for international competitiveness. And then finally, in order is the final exam. And just for your convenience, no other reason, the same slides that I put all the way up in the first week about international business conditions, the drivers of international business conditions, since those international business conditions and everything else in the course are included in the final exam. I put this video, this stack of PowerPoint slides down here, just so it would be easier for you to get at them and review them before you take the final exam. In the 8th week of the course, you have nothing to do. I now have to compute all the grades and eventually turn them in. So the course is 7 weeks, and those are the 7 weeks. This has been somewhat of a long video, but I hope that it's helped you to appreciate what will transpire in this business, in this course, and what changes have been made to the course structure that were not reflected either in the syllabus or the original summary PowerPoint slides. I'm really sorry that if you took time to review those slides, and now here we are with another set of slides. It's just because I was inextricably tied to my obligations at the end of the second semester. Quite literally, for the last 3 weeks, I worked 7 days a week, usually until about 1 o'clock in the morning, and got no break at all. The reasons for that are my problem, they're not yours, but what I'm trying to do is at least offer you an explanation for why I was so late in getting this stuff set up for you. But from here on, I think it should be smooth sailing because everything is pretty well organized. You can just launch right into it. If you'd like to meet once a week, just let me know. If you don't want to do that, it's just fine with me. If any of you would ever like to meet with me in a little private Zoom session, don't hesitate to get in touch with me, and I'll be glad to meet with you privately. So with that, I'll let you get back to whatever you were doing before you tuned into this video. Welcome to the course. Gotta end this